towns of Situate, Marshfield, and Duxbury to look at vulnerability of the coastline and to begin to look at what some of the adaptation steps are that are appropriate for towns of that size. Marshfield is engaged in an update of its comprehensive plan. We're working with the community on a harbor, rivers, and waterways plan, and it will have a strong climate change adaptation element to it. There's not a great deal that towns can do on an individual basis in terms of climate change mitigation, but they are on the forefront of what's going to need to be adaptation measures to combat climate change and storm surges. So Marshfield's plan, and it's the first one I've seen actually in the coastal area, will have a chapter on climate change adaptation, and our waterfront plan will similarly reflect that. We're working on a plan for Southampton, New York. Again, we've been at it for about 18 months. Until Sandy hit, climate change was not high on the agenda for that plan either. Suddenly, it became the primary thing that plan will cover. Southampton, very much like the Cape Cod communities, soft shoreline, not hard infrastructure is not appropriate and would be ineffective and over the long run probably counterproductive. So their focus really is on what to do about the movement of the sand that goes along the barrier beaches, ends up in the estuaries, affecting the shellfish resources, the eelgrass beds, and so forth. And they're dredging that sand out and putting it back on the beach as a short-term measure. But that needs to be given much longer-term consideration into what the appropriate response to sea level rise will be in that case. I'll switch gears and talk about we're involved in an effort now for Port of Massachusetts strategic plan for the 5 major ports in Massachusetts: Gloucester, Salem, Boston, Fall River, and New Bedford. For the first time, those ports are coming together under something called the Ports Compact, led by the mayors of each of those communities and the secretariats of several of the agencies under the governor. And that port plan, for the first time, will attempt to coordinate the infrastructure investments that are going to occur in those 5 ports and probably focus the investments that will take place there, as well as take a and so what that says to me is it's going to take a long-term view of what those ports are going to be doing in years to come. Again, climate change was not one of the drivers of that plan, but climate change clearly is going to influence what the infrastructure investments are made for each of those ports and the direction that each of those ports go in. The final example I'll use is working with some colleagues out of the School for the Environment at UMass Boston on a couple of studies that have to do with the impact on environmental justice communities of sea level rise and climate change. Not a lot of thought is necessarily given to that, but NOAA, for its perspective, wanted to know what communities of color, environmental change, environmental justice communities thought or knew about climate change and what they would think about in terms of this range of adaptation strategies that are considered amongst people like us that have access to forums like this to go to. So we did a couple of social science, really, research projects in Everett and East Boston to try to better understand what the impacts of climate change, sea level rise will be on those communities and find out how those people would react to some of the strategies that have been proposed. And that information then is fed back into the federal government to help them refine their policies as they're implemented in urban areas on the coastline. That's all I have to say. Thank you.